Okay, good evening. It's 6:30 p.m. and I'm going to be doing a hearing tonight on the sewer and water rates. And we're going to have a presentation by the town assessor, Will Canoyer. So with that, Will, I'm going to ask you to come on up. The citizens are very interested in this topic. This deals with our water treatment facility and our sewer treatment facility. Our town assessor will go through the sewer and water rates and some of the things that actually determine what the rates are. With that, Mr. Canoyer, appreciate your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. I'm Will Canoyer, I'm the assessor, and so we have a quick little overview of how the rates come, what the effect is going to be this year and so forth. Just a little 5-minute overview. So some of you have seen this before, but it doesn't change. The rates are determined by a simple formula. You have your fixed cost and your variable costs. That equals your total cost, and we have to raise the proper revenue to meet that. What is a fixed cost? Well, it's a number of things, but debt service, which is the annual payments of principal and interest on money we borrow to do improvements to the plants and other infrastructure. Capital improvements, the money we appropriate annually for obviously capital improvements, trucks, equipment, and so forth. The indirect cost, that is services performed by town staff to perform things that the enterprise funds or the water company or the sewer department can't do. For example, my office in the assessors does all the billing for the water. I supervise that. The collector's office collects all that revenue. The town manager supervises that. The DPW director supervises both enterprise funds and a myriad of other things. We have contracts, which are the services for operations and maintenance. So on the water side, we contract with Whitewater to perform all of the maintenance and other things associated with the physical running of that system. On the sewer side, Sewer Enterprise Fund, we have another company, Veolia, who manages and runs the sewer enterprise, the sewer plant, and all of the systems necessary to maintain the sewer system. What is a variable cost? Well, that's a cost that is subject to change based on consumption. So for example, the utilities to run those plants, the electricity, any chemicals and supplies, and any other thing that varies based on the amount of usage and need. A big factor to our rates is the consumption. So the overall consumption impacts the rate. So there's kind of a balancing between the budget and consumption. The amount of consumption at given rates equals a certain revenue. So the greater the consumption, that moderates the rate. The lesser the consumption, the greater the rate that needs to be applied. So one last thing, individual households and businesses use different amounts of water sewer service. So we use what's called a consumption rate. So based on your meter size, you pay a base charge, and the larger meter sizes, which supply much more water and therefore much more sewer use, it's a higher base charge. But in addition to that, our rates are on a tiered system where both on the water and the sewer, the first 500 cubic feet of use is at the lowest rate. The next rate is, I believe, the next 3,500 cubic feet. That goes to a slightly higher rate. Where we have 5 rate tiers, and as you go up from there, the rates go up quite a bit. So the high users, the industrial, commercial, large apartment buildings, not only are they paying more based on their amount of consumption, but the rates are higher as their usage gets higher. So the current rate changes. The rate changes are based on consumption changes and increased cost. So the consumption for the last 3 years in water has been the trend is about 1.8% less, and in last year our consumption was down about 0.68 of 1%, just slightly, but it's significant. On the sewer side, our consumption last year was down 0.002%, almost nothing. But for the 3-year average, it's a little bit higher. So these next couple of charts really kind of summarize it very well. Our total sewer budget this year, which you voted on several weeks ago, is $4,815,000 approximately. That's an increase or change of $267,341 over last year. That's a 5.88% increase in the budget. So of that change, capital budget went up $160,000. The operations went up $70,444. The debt service went up about $28,000, close to $29,000, and the indirect cost went up about $8,000. It's important to note that the operations, the companies that manage these for us, are tied to the CPI utilities rate by the Department of Labor, I believe it is. And I think this year that amount is 3.5%, that inflation rate on this. Okay, so that's on the water side, the sewer side. On the water side, this year's budget, which you voted on, was $4,297,751. That's an increase of $403,068. However, we're getting reimbursed for the water line reimbursement of $400,000. So on the water side, the net effect is really only $3,068 over last year, which is an increase of 0.08%. So the capital budget, of that change, the capital budget went up $15,000, the operations went up $49,754, and the debt service went up $343,615, and that's because there was increased debt, but some of our existing debt has fallen off as well. So it went up to $343,000, however, the reimbursement is $400,000, so it has a negative amount there. Indirect cost went down slightly at $553,000. So the bottom line, the water rates this year are going to go up 1%, and the sewer rates are going to go up 6%, which is in line with those voted budget items. So this last slide here, the typical, I think it was median single family, we calculated this a few years ago, uses about 1,400 cubic feet per quarter. So currently, they pay, somebody using that amount pays $117.52 for water, $146.09 for sewer, or $263.61. And with the rate increase, as you can see below, it will go up $118.70 for water, $154.86, or $273.56. And that's a change each quarter of $1.18 for water, or $8.77 for sewer, or whatever that totals, close to $10 per quarter. You see further on the right, it's broken down by month, but we don't bill by month. I just do that for illustration. We bill by quarter. So, and these numbers, by the way, it's all based on your consumption. So these numbers, if you use the same amount of consumption as you did last year to this year, your change would be the percentages. If your consumption is higher, obviously you would pay a little more. If your consumption is less, obviously you would pay a little less. A couple of real points. We have discussions with DPW and the water filtration, the whitewater operator, Steve Gregoire. We have them frequently. Consumption is very, very good. It means you're fixing your leaks and you're getting the modern mandated fixtures and so forth. That's very, very good. But I see it in my office every time bills go out. There are people who aren't paying attention to their leaks, and sometimes they have dramatic leaks, and they'll get a shock with a large bill compared to the previous one. And they'll say, the rates, did they go up crazy? And I'll say, no, not at all, but your consumption went up from 2,000 cubic feet, 1,400 cubic feet per quarter, and now they're 2,800. And it's sort of, I kind of give them the illustration. I said, you have a leak? No, I don't have a leak. Well, I got a runny toilet. So if you have those, be sure to fix them because you're just wasting money. And I use the analogy, if you have a car and you drive it 1,000 miles a month, your expenses are going to be X. If you start going to 2,000 miles a month, your expenses are going to go up quite a bit, a lot more gasoline wear and tear and so forth. But so if there's anything you get out of this, other than not liking it, is be sure your plumbing and your fixtures are running properly. So that concludes what I had to say.
Thank you, Mr. Kerner. If you just play, in case we have any questions, just stand by.
Sure.
First, I want to make it clear to the public, just so everyone understands, This is an opportunity for a public hearing, so it's an opportunity for citizens to give their voice. We did publicize this in the Southbridge newspaper on May 30th and June 6th, according to our bylaws. I also want to take a minute to thank our town councilors. As you see, they're up here at the seats because they're very interested in listening to what the public has to say. So I appreciate the fact that they're all here tonight to listen to this. With that, this is a public hearing, and if we also have our DPW director, Heather Blakely, here, who is the person who oversees both the water and sewer treatment facilities. So with that, I'm interested in anyone's views, if anyone would like to come to the microphone and speak about the water or sewer rates, and please just give your name and your street address for purposes of the record.
Mike Marchetti, 120 Murray Avenue. You'll have to excuse me. I picked up a little bit of a sore throat when I was on vacation last week, so I'll try to be as brief as I can. First of all, I looked at the numbers up there, and as I've said in the past, these rate increases are compounded rate increases, not like a tax increase. A tax increase is just a set rate every year. Water and sewer rates are based on last year's rate, which had an increase from the previous year, and an increase from the previous year, and so on. And I think that we sat down about a couple years ago and figured out that over a 10-year period, our water and sewer rates went up 300%. So I just wanted to point that out. Now, the rates are what they are tonight. Last year I was here, and I had a couple of comments. One comment I had was, my wife had been retired for the full year and never saw anybody from the town reading our water meter. We have a drive-by water meter. I've been retired for about 7 months. I haven't seen anybody drive by reading my meters. Now, it could be that they are, and I just have never noticed it, but I did ask for the records for that last year, and to date, I've never received any of those records for the drive-by meter reading. The other thing that I brought up last year was that I thought that the town might save money if we run the water and sewer utilities ourselves. Some town officials who are more expert on this, it's their expert opinion that it's better to have private contractors running the water and sewer utilities. However, I thought we might be able to save money if we at least took some of it away from them. I don't know if you have ever hired a private contractor to do work at your house or on your car, but whenever they give you a bill, you'll always notice that the parts or supplies are always marked up, because that's partly how they make their money. And so I thought we could at least take that away from them. The town maybe could take over the bidding process to make sure that when we bid on chemicals or supplies, we're just getting it at cost, that's all. I certainly don't feel that the private companies who are doing our water and sewer should be making a profit on chemicals and supplies. Now, are they making a profit on that? I don't know, but last year I asked to see a copy of the records for that, and once again, to date, I've never received any of those copies. So I just have one last thing. If you know, how much money is the town getting from U.S. General for water to the Millennium Power Plant per year?
With that, I'm going to ask her I'm not sure those numbers will be available right off the top of our head here tonight.
Well, I know
Yeah,
how.
I mean, we can provide that information for you.
Well,
I'm
I
not
have
sure
the
it's here
information.
tonight.
I
Dollar
thought maybe
General
you
has
might
not
know.
yet opened up, so I imagine what we're talking about is the connection fees and things that are pretty, nope, I guess not. Would you like to make any comment, DPW Director? I mean, they have not opened Dollar General yet, so I'm not sure.
No, that's not what he said, not Dollar General.
What did you say?
U.S. General for the Millennium Power Plant.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you meant the new dollar store. I thought that's what you're talking about.
So in 1998, there was this newspaper article here that the town would be getting $21 million over a 20-year period from Millennium Power Plant to supply them with water. And I just wondered if we must still be getting that money per year, over $1 million a year from U.S. General to supply them with water. It said it's a 20-year contract. They will pay to upgrade the town's wastewater treatment plant and sewer lines. That was about $3.8 million. for that. And it was due to open in 2000, but I believe it didn't open until 2001. So I'm presuming that we still are getting money for the Millennium Power, over $1 million a year.
To the answer, we are still getting money. The DPW director is prepared to make comments if you'd like to answer the questions to the best of her ability off the top of her head.
Okay. Well, one of the questions that I have is, when you need upgrades at the sewer plant, are you passing on that cost to U.S. General? Or are they just paying a flat fee and that's all they have to pay? That's one of my questions.
Right.
When the sewer rates go up, or the water rates go up, are you passing on that cost to U.S. General or not?
So
I'll let her answer.
my belief, I'll ask the DPW director, is that it's passed to all people who pay the rate. So I'll have the DPW director give you a more direct response.
So I can't talk about the whole pilot, but I can tell you about the water and sewer pilot and what their fees are. They do pay a water and sewer fee just the same as anybody else. In addition, they contribute $100,000 a year to both water and sewer. So that's in addition to them paying their water fees. There's a whole pilot for the whole town for what they pay, so it doesn't all go into water and sewer fees. The agreement with Millennium to upgrade the sewer plant is an agreement to upgrade and the upgrades that they made to the tertiary treatment units and the operation of the tertiary treatment, which is the reclaimed water that gets sent back to them. There is an agreement for any upgrades that is needed there, that they take care of that, and in the past, they have already reimbursed us for other upgrades that have been there. It's not typical maintenance upgrades because they are paying for that water already. But there has been upgrades that they have paid for on that portion of the plant directly. To answer his question regarding cost of pass-through, what we call pass-throughs, our contracts with both our water and sewer are pass-through contracts, so if they purchase supplies for the plant, for us, there is no charge on that. It's a pass-through charge. So they're not making a markup on that, which is one of the questions he also asked. I think that is the only other question I can answer off the top of my head. He's welcome to look at the contracts. The contracts are public documents. Town manager office has both of the contracts for the water and sewer department. So.
And that is correct, Mr. Marquetti. You're more than welcome to stop by our office and look at both of those contracts if you would like.
Well, like I said, last year I asked for those documents and I never received them. You know, as Ronald Reagan once said, trust but verify. So I asked to see the documents, and I would still like to see the documents. As far as how much money they're making on the markups, on chemicals and supplies, I would like to see that. Trust but verify. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your time and thank you for your comments, Mr. Marquetti. Would anyone else like to address the town council? Please come up and again give your name and street address for the purposes of the record.
For the record, Dave Smick, 145 Ridge Road. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. I just have two questions. Later on the agenda on the regular council, there are 6 items that are capital borrowing for both enterprise funds. Is the cost of the borrowing included in this budget?
You're talking about for the current year. I would.
Well,
For this
what we're
year's
voting
budget,
on is
the
for
cost
next-
of the debt
for next
service for
fiscal
those
year.
borrowing, I'm not sure the timing of that or if that's been decided on by the treasurer and the DPW director. It depends upon the timing of the work that's being done. I suspect that, I guess I would say, you have not, in this year's budget, it's not done because those projects won't start until later in the next year. So the answer is no, because by the nature of the timing, the borrowing will not occur in this fiscal year, so it would probably be put into the next fiscal year.
Okay, so they're not
They're not in this
in
one.
this operating,
Right, there'd be a next
the
year's,
2020 operating budget. Okay, one more question.
2021 operating budget.
What was that?
They would be put in the 2021 operating budget.
Right. Okay, Mr. Pinoy was talking earlier about what we charge the enterprise funds for the amount of work done on municipal
Excuse me, Mr.
sites.
Smith, can you just speak into the microphone because I can't hear you? Sorry.
You can't hear me?
Can't hear you, Mr. Smith. It's amazing how that is.
Okay, sorry. Mr. Canoia said earlier that the municipal side charged back the enterprise funds for work done by the municipal side. Do you know how much that money is annually?
So do you have, it's called indirect costs is what you're asking about?
Okay.
Do you have the actual
In
indirect
past
cost?
years, I've seen it as the line item was
Right. So we
technically
have,
charged
I mean, I
back.
don't have the numbers in front, I'll give them a second, but let me tell you what I can tell you about it, right? So
Okay.
a variety of us do some work involving in the water treatment plant. And we have a company that comes in and evaluates all the indirect costs, the things that, work that the treasurer's office does, or I do, or DPW director does, and that comes into the direct cost. So there's an actual study and evaluation done to determine those percentages. And you're right, there'll be indirect costs by different departments, and I don't know if they have those numbers.
I'm just
but
curious on what the total is.
yeah, they're looking it up and seeing if they can find it. Basically, it's the cost of our operations as they relate to those enterprise accounts.
Because originally, when we created the enterprise funds, they didn't have those fees.
Probably not. Years ago, I'm told that they did. So
No,
you're
because,
correct, yeah.
and those came in, I think the town manager was Carlisle, when he hired that consultant, that they were dusting off every corner of every shelf in town to see where they could find extra money. That was the time that they found that it would be legal if they did back charge the enterprise funds. So it's something that we haven't done from the beginning. So I was just curious on what that amount is.
The finance director is here to answer that
Okay.
question, so if you just give her a
Thank
second to come on up. And Karen Harnoy is our finance director for the town of Southbridge, and she can attempt to answer that question.
Sure, thank you. The water indirect cost is $630,888, and the sewer indirect cost is $650,092. Just to give you an idea of what we do, we actually bring in an independent consultant every 2 years to do, an independent evaluation on it, just to make sure where we're at is where we should be. He interviews all the different department heads, and he asks them how much time that they spend with the different, on the water and sewer activities, and he puts all the information together.
Just to kind of follow up on this question, do you
Sure.
know approximately when the indirect costs started to be charged back? What year? Because he's right, they weren't, I guess many years ago they weren't, and it's more of a recent phenomenon. I don't know, it could be 5-6 years, I don't know.
Yes, it was with Clayton Carlisle, the former town manager, and especially when it had to do with the landfill, we went back many years to recapture costs. And that's when the Department of Revenue put an IGR into place, a bulletin saying you can only go back, so if you hadn't been charging it, you could only go back, I think it's maybe like 3 years. So to avoid other cities and towns going back, I think we maybe went back like 10 years.
Excuse me, how many years?
I think we may have gone back 10 years on the landfill at the time.
Thank you. Does that answer your questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your questions. Again, it's a public hearing. Does anyone else would like to speak on this issue? Please come up to the microphone again, give your name and your street address for the record.
Hi, my name's Art Theodore, Southbridge, Mass. I live at 395 High Street. The questions I have are concerned about water and sewer. How many reservoirs do we have in Southbridge?
How many reservoirs?
Yeah, water reservoirs.
5.
5. And how many towns do we give or sell water to?
I know it's Charlton and just Charlton? Just Charlton.
Just Charlton?
Just Charlton.
Okay, so how much do we sell them per year?
How much do we sell Charlton per
Yeah.
year specifically? I would imagine that's variable from year to year, but do we have a number for this year approximately?
What was that again?
I'm waiting, the DPW director's behind you. It's variable from year to year, but I'm seeing if she has 2018 would be the last.
It averages out over the last couple of years that it's about an average of 100,000 a day.
100,000 what?
100,000 gallons a day.
A day.
And our water system averages just about 1.8 million gallons a day.
The amount of gallons that we sell, how much do we get per gallon? Southbridge.
It's comparative to the same rates that we get for our own customers. Because the way the IMA agreement is structured, which is an agreement between the two towns, they use the exact same rate structure as we do.
Okay, the other question is, I hear about the lotteries going on in Massachusetts. How much money is Southbridge given from the state in the last 12 years, roughly?
From the lottery?
Yeah,
I'm
they're
sorry,
supposed to be
Yeah,
distributing the money out.
I don't have that number for you, but I'm not sure what the relevance this has to a public hearing on water and sewer rates, but the state gives us money in a variety of formats, but it really doesn't have anything to do with water or sewer rates. I mean, we can get you that information, it's just not pertinent to tonight's agenda. But I'd be more than happy if you want to come by my office, we can look. I'm not sure they give us money back. They don't give us money, I don't think, directly from the lottery. They give us money for Chapter 70 and they give us Chapter 90 money. But I don't think there's a direct connection of how much money they get from lottery to how much money the town gets. I'm not sure if it's in that kind of a formula.
If I may,
He said never-
Mr. Manager. So, Mr. Theodos, your point is taken that, yes, we do get a variety of money from various groups, agencies in the state, which becomes unrestricted state aid. That unrestricted state aid is then used as part of our operating budget. So we use that money to reduce all the other expenses such as fire, police, ambulance, schools. Because it's unrestricted aid, so that's where that money goes to.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilor Steve?
Yeah, I have a quick question, just for the people who are watching. Obviously, we've talked a lot about this stuff, but I was hoping either you or Heather could just quickly summarize the projects that are going into this year's rate.
Right. I'll have Heather give some of them. There's difference between some that are in this year's rate and other ones that are going to be in next year's rate, so I'm not sure if she can define that out, but Heather, if you could.
And just bear with me for a minute.
That's okay.
So in sewer, added to this year's rate are the sludge dewatering equipment upgrades. That's the new centrifuge equipment that we've put in for our sludge dewatering. Let's keep them on. Our bio tower upgrades and our electrical upgrade project, which is our new generator and our new switching gear. And in water, which we do have offset, hold on a second, get back, is the Berry Corner Road. It is included in our budget, but we're getting it reimbursed back. And that is basically it there, because everything else kind of stayed stagnant.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions? With that, do one last try. Any other questions? Okay, then I am going to be closing the public hearing at 6:59 p.m. Thank you for your questions and thanks for you for attending the public hearing. With that, I'm going to be turning over the regular meeting to Chairman Jovan.
Yeah, the meeting will start at 7 p.m.